Hey guys, this is Josh. I'm a graduate student at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and I'm going to be sharing some of the solutions to various homework exercises. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Assignment 1, Problem 1, Part A. Let's get started. Use the dataset batches.sas. The data are from a matched pairs experiment to compare treatments intended to reduce pest infestations. There are 12 batches sampled from a target population. Each batch is divided into one part that receives the reference treatment, denoted ref, and a second part that receives the experimental treatment, denoted new. The response variable is an index of infestation. Lower is better. Identify the following. Response variable. This one's kind of a gimme. The problem gives us the answer here. The response variable is an index of infestation. So I'm going to put index of infestation as the answer to this one. Index of infestation. More generally, the response variable is the attribute that you're going to compare. For example, if we were to see which fertilizer produces the largest strawberry, the mass or volume of a strawberry would be the response variable. The next one is treatment factor. This is the various treatments that we are comparing against each other. So in our strawberry example, we could be comparing two different fertilizers. In our case, in this example, I'm just going to put treatment. And we're going to move on to this next one. Now, treatment is kind of ambiguous, but you'll see in a second why I decided to put treatment. Factor level is the amount of treatment you're going to use. So in our fertilizer example, if I wanted to check between using 1 tablespoon of a particular fertilizer versus 2 tablespoons of that same fertilizer, that would be two different factor levels. They would be 1 versus 2 tablespoons. In our case, I'm going to use ref and new. Now, I think this problem, these two are kind of ambiguous. I think it's also correct to say the treatment factor is ref and new, and to say that there are no factor levels in this experiment. I decided to put it this way just so I have an answer for each blank. The next question asks if there is a blocking factor. I'm going to say yes, there is, and that the blocking factor is batch. Blocking factor is when you group your experiment into blocks, where you think each block, the experiment within each block, will have more in common between creatures inside each block versus creatures outside the block. So let me give an example. I don't think that was very clear. So if with our strawberry example, suppose we didn't have enough land in our field for all the strawberries we wanted to test, so we decided to use a second field. We would group this experiment by the field since the strawberries in one field we would expect to grow a little bit differently from the strawberries in a different field, even though the fertilizers and sunlight and water were all the same. So in our case, the blocking factor is batch because we're going to compare the reference and experimental treatments from each batch. The experimental unit, this one I'm going to put half a batch because each batch is divided into two parts. One part receives the reference treatment and the second part receives the experimental treatment. Now, experimental unit, this is the smallest subset of your experiment that receives a uniform treatment. In our case, that's half a batch. In the case of strawberries, imagine we're spraying fertilizer, if you can spray fertilizer, over a patch of strawberries. In that case, a patch would be your experimental unit because the strawberries in each patch got the same spray. And it would be difficult to be consistent with how much you spray the strawberries. The sampling unit in this example will also be half a batch. A sampling unit is the smallest unit that we take measurements on. In the case of our strawberries, again, if we're looking for the largest or heaviest strawberries, the sampling unit would be 1 strawberry. So imagine if we were consistent and that we were spraying the strawberries, the experimental unit would be a patch of strawberries, but the sampling unit would be 1 individual strawberry because each strawberry in the patch gets sprayed with treatment, but each strawberry is measured individually. In this example, experimental unit and sampling unit are the same. The number of replications, this is going to be 12 since we have 12 different batches. Now, as another way to think about this, I'm going to bring up the batches.sas file and we're going to look at the sampling unit and number of replications. I knew that the sampling unit was half a batch because we have our 12 batches listed here, and each batch has 2 measurements, so we can be confident that this is measuring the reference variable or the reference treatment versus the new treatment. So we're not taking multiple measurements on each batch, we're taking one measurement over the reference and one measurement over the new. And we do this 12 times in each different batch. Okay, so that is my answer for problem 1 at part A. Let me know in the comments if you guys disagree with any of my answers or if anything I said wasn't clear. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.